Good morning, all. Welcome to Coffee with Craig. Happy Monday. Today, we're going to be talking about kind of a free speech and the Second Amendment. Now, I think we've often wondered whether or not, what constitutes, a violation of our civil rights. And it's kind of funny because a lot of times we get caught up because people just want to say, just in our community, just want to focus on the Second Amendment. But what we don't realize is how the anti-civil rights community is actually utilizing others of our civil rights against us in order to fight us and keep us from being able to exercise our right when it comes to the Second Amendment. And this is a particularly interesting case. Now, you guys heard back in September there was a young man who put together a presentation for a class. And in the presentation, it was a video presentation, and it specifically spoke to it was an argument against gun control. And in the video, he points out how particular criminals had attempted to rob somebody, and guess what? The person happened to be armed, and they were able to defend themselves. He also went on to point out how point out the fallacy of disarming law-abiding citizens, and that's all that the laws really did. And he questioned, the validity of such laws. It really wasn't an inflammatory. As a matter of fact, we have a link. If you go to firearmspolicy.org, go to our blog, you'll see the article on it. But you can actually watch the video that was on the thumb drive. Now, the reason I want you to watch it is because I want you to hear what happened next. So he left that thumb drive in a computer at school, and a teacher found it. So he or she took it to the office. A school employee watched what was on looked at what was on the thumb drive because he wanted to find out who it belonged to, and came across this video, found that it was a red flag, that it was concerning, and then gave it to a counselor. Counselor looked at the video. Counselor then called the police. The student was summarily suspended and was required, before he could return to school, he had to go through a psychological evaluation in order to be able to determine if he was going to be allowed to come back to school. Now, all of this was because he put together a presentation that was against gun control. Not only that, but then they tried to go to the house. They tried to go to the student's house, talk to the mom, talk to the student. The mother basically told him, you don't talk to my kid. That's, she pulled him out of school, basically. They had really no real other reason to be there and be involved with him. But all of that being said, so now the school district is now being sued by this mother, as very well she should be. Now, probably the most inflammatory thing in the entire video was whether or not he questioned, it was him questioning whether or not liberals were insane, quote unquote, whether or not liberals were insane. And I get it, because even he gets the idea, this young man gets the idea that disarming law-abiding citizens does not make anyone any safer. But here, you're looking at this idea that they want to control not just our ability to own a firearm, not our ability to be able to defend ourselves, but even our ability, even our thoughts. Their desire is to even make sure that we're not even allowed to think about protecting ourselves, that we're not even allowed, that the whole idea, the concept that there is a fundamental right to defend oneself is considered a mental disorder by those on the left. Yeah, it's funny. I had an argument with a guy that I played football with as a youth. He's like, well, I don't see any reason why anyone needs a semi-automatic handgun. I mean, he's like, I believe in hunting, but that's really about it. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, first of all, I don't recall the Second Amendment saying anything about hunting. But it's also important to understand that there's a fundamental right to defend yourself. And I'm like, this country has been so dumbed down, and now we see where it's coming from. It's been so perverted, the idea that you don't have rights. You only have the rights that the government says you are allowed to have. And now they're trying to institute that and re-educate a student who, by the way, probably has a better fundamental understanding and a better fundamental grasp on his rights and his values than those who are in fact teaching him. So anyway, so that's today's story. I encourage you to go to firearmspolicy.org, go to our blog, check out the story. There's links to the video, there's links to the story, and there's some information there about the lawsuit. Important for you guys to check it out and find out, do the folks at your school district, what's their perspective? Do they believe in a student's individual right to be able to express themselves or to be able to have a position that is contrary to what may be their liberal leanings? Anyway, that's today's story. Let's see what you folks have to say about it. Where are we at? Where are we at? Where are we at? Here we go. Bam. Okay. Remember Prop 8? How are Gunmageddon laws in comparison to the procedure, outcome, and the legality of Prop 8? Well, I'm not a lawyer, so I really can't tell you. What I can tell you, the biggest challenge with Prop 8, when it got to in particular when it got past when it got to the appellate level and got up to the Supreme Court, was that no one had standing. The people who did have standing, the governor and the attorney general, refused to continue the case. So the question that we're going to have here is going to be a little bit different, because we actually have plaintiffs who have standing, or at least, as the Gunmageddon suits go forward, I'm assuming that there are going to be plaintiffs who are actually going to have standing in those particular cases. So how those cases are going to be decided is not going to be because there's no one with standing challenging the decisions, as what happened with Proposition 8. A lot of my friends, they don't want to hear the other side, even the facts. That was from Armando. That's true. Many of the people, in particular in the anti-gun community, the anti-Second Amendment community, their position is not based on facts. Their position is based on emotion. So they can't argue facts. When you start arguing facts, they lose their mind and they get upset and angry. Why? Why is their reaction emotional? Because their opposition is emotional. It's entirely founded on the idea that they're scared of guns and they're scared of people who like guns. And rather than come to understand them, come to respect them and understand exactly their usefulness in exercising our right to be able to defend ourselves, well, they'd rather just make sure none of the rest of us are able to do so, ignoring the fact completely that criminals are still going to be able to get firearms. Just my 2 cents. I'm glad I live in Utah now. Patrick, once again, I'll tell you everything. Every time I hear that from somebody who lives outside of California, once again, well, first of all, this is a case, this is not a California case, so that's number one. But let me just be real with you, man. If the fight weren't taking place here, when the fight is over here, if they've fully taken our rights here, you can guarantee that there are going to be states that are next. Just ask the folks right now in Nevada. Those of you watching in Nevada, you see what's going on right now in Nevada, in Oregon, in Washington. And yes, even in Arizona, they're attempting, and New Mexico, they're attempting to institute anti-gun laws. And they may not be successful this year. But guess what? They're going to come back, and they're going to keep going, and they're going to keep working. So, hey, you should be happy that we're fighting here on the front lines here in California, because once again, if we're successful here, that protects the entire country. Everyone knows diversity of thought is a crime in the progressive utopia. Yes, it is. There is no diversity of thought. We all have to be of one mind, think exactly the same. Otherwise, and by the way, we have to defer to their progressive elites thinking of the way things should be, even though the progressive elite are not necessarily the sharpest knives in the drawer. What state is this in? I believe this is in the state of New Jersey, but I could be incorrect. If you go and check on the story, you can tell which state that it's actually in. Let's see. Makes sense. So rare these days. Yes, common sense is not very common. Ridiculous. Time to stand up and voice our opinions and stop the attack on our Second Amendment. It's important for us to be able to express our opinions. Last night I'm watching the Golden Globes and I'm just getting frustrated because, that's not the venue. That's not the place. I watch the Golden Globes because I want to see. Let me clarify. I don't watch the Golden Globes, but I watch movies because I want to be entertained, not because I want to be re-educated or indoctrinated with either liberal or conservative thought. I want to be entertained. That's why I watch movies. But here's the thing: we have to be willing to stand up and express our opinion. And we also, though, ought to be effective in how we do it. It's not just important what you say; it's important how you say it. We want to make sure that the truth is going to offend people. That's just the way it is. But how we express that truth is vitally important. Social media gives the opportunity to express our opinions and our values and our positions to a broader group, a broader audience than we've ever had before. The key is, are we going to be effective in how we do it? How can we reinforce our Second Amendment to own firearms and guns within our state and country? Within our state or country is a legal guidelines to stay out of jail. California's, yeah, okay. I'm not sure exactly what you're asking, but how do we express our values? Number one, we all have a sphere of influence. We have people who we know personally, right? We have people who we know through social media, right? We all have the ability to be able to express our opinions. I encourage, you know what? Invite people to, when you come across a post or you come across a video that makes a lot of sense, that expresses your values and your concerns, share it. Even if you're not necessarily effective, if you just get so outraged that you just want to cuss them out, but that's not going to work, you know what? Then find those blog posts, find those videos that actually express that sentiment in a way in which you believe will be effective in communicating to those people who might actually listen. Mind you, not everybody's going to listen. That's just the way it is. But also know that as you're having that conversation, there are other people listening. On that note, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for today. I want to thank you guys for tuning in, and I will look forward to speaking with you again tomorrow. Enjoy your coffee.
If you like these updates, please share them with your friends and subscribe to our YouTube channel.